One of the most important factors for success in competitive Counter-Strike is achieving map control. So let's have a look at Astralis on one of their strongest maps and see how they take the fight to their opponents on Overpass CT side. For this particular video, I want to focus on the strategies that they run to get consistent control of the B short area. Let's jump to round 20 of their match against Mousesports. When playing CT, Astralis will most of the time have 3 people towards the B side in the beginning of the round. This is Sipix, Glaive and Magisk. And to start off, we'll have a look at Magisk's POV as they take short control. He throws this Molotov that lands inside the tunnel of short. This is something that you'll see him use in almost every round to make it more difficult for the attackers to get to this position. After that, he quickly makes his way into short, holding a smoke ready to extinguish any incoming Molotovs. Arriving in short first, he quickly peeks through the tunnel to get information and hold his angle steadily. At the same time, we see Glaive is with him in short, looking towards the connector, so let's have a look at his POV. Glaive, shortly behind Magisk, when leaving the spawn, uses this high explosive nade that he puts inside the Molotov that was thrown by Magisk. This ensures that if there were any attackers that decided to push through the Molotov, they would get damaged by the explosion of the nade and also slow down in the burning flames, which would probably get them killed. After Magisk makes sure that nobody is close to short, Glaive gets ready with his flashbang to use towards the door of connector. You might be wondering at this point, why is he pre-aiming the flashbang towards the closed door? Well, to answer that, we need to move to the third B defender, which is Sipix. Sipix is over at heaven and has a high explosive nade that he uses for opening the door of connector. This allows Glaive to have a peek into connector and even spot Chris J, who was holding this angle from the back of con. So let's summarize what these different moves of action mean to the total situation of map control. First, obviously, Magisk made sure that nobody is short, and since he peeked instantly through the tunnel, he also has a lot of information about any potential players towards Monster. Of course, due to the timing of the meeting points on Overpass, players could already be past this angle and either be inside the tunnel towards Monster or in this corner on the left hand side. But since Sipix doesn't see any signs of attackers in Monster, after holding the angle for a little while, they can safely conclude that there is nobody here. This allows Sipix to rotate and strengthen the defense towards A, giving Astralis a major benefit, all due to the map control that they took from this short push. In round 22, we see a different approach used by Astralis. As usual, Magisk throws his Molotov to short, which is followed up by the nade that we saw previously from Glaive. Once the sound cue of someone pushing through the Molotov comes in, Magisk is alarmed and uses the cover from this wall to pull out his high explosive nade that is supposed to land inside the water. After missing the nade, he quickly falls back behind the next corner and puts down a smoke to prevent getting rushed by the enemies. At the same time, it's worth mentioning that in this particular round, Astralis chose to leave Monster open and instead send Sipix to connector. Fortunately for them, this call pays off perfectly, since after clearing the stairs and the back of connector, Sipix is now in a prime position to flank the 3 members of Mousesports, including an easy frag onto Frozen, who is trying to smoke off heaven when Sipix opens the door. The other 2 players from Mousesports are now in a situation where they have enemies on both sides, so they quickly go for the push through the smoke in short, running into the guns of Magisk and Glaive. Glaive's POV. After throwing a nade and flash towards water, Glaive gets the information that there is at least one enemy pushed through the smoke. This signals that a potential B-split could be coming in, and therefore Glaive made sure to put down the smoke inside the tunnel of Monster to make it more difficult for the attackers to have an organized execute. At this point, the short rush from Mousesports comes in, and Glaive gets an easy triple, even though this includes taking down one of his own teammates. This makes it a 4v2 favoring Astralis, which is finished off by a nice double from Sipix in short. So after watching a few different rounds, it becomes clear that Astralis have a strong tendency towards certain moves to get control of short. However, their strength lies in the subtle changes that they make from round to round to make sure that they are never fully predictable and therefore hard to counter. Another variation of their short control is shown in round 9 in their match against Fnatic. The round starts off with Sipix throwing the smoke that lands at the entrance of the Monster tunnel. This smoke prevents a Monster rush to some degree, since teams will often be hesitant due to the strength of a potential Molotov or flashbang behind the smoke in Monster. At the same time, one of the short defenders, in this round Glaive, uses the Molotov for the short tunnel, while Magisk follows it up with the usual nade. By the time that Glaive arrives in short, Sipix has already opened the connector door with this high explosive nade from heaven, and this combined with jump peaks from Magisk to get information about connector ensures that Glaive can go inside the water without risking getting shot from connector. Pausing the clip right here, we see that Magisk spots JW pushing up close in connector, and this is probably instantly communicated with Glaive, who swings his attention and deals with JW. At this point in the round, Astralis has full control of both B short and monster. This once again allows them to rotate Magisk to support with the defense of the A side, giving them a huge advantage due to their early map control at B. Alright, let's summarize what we've seen so far from Astralis B short control. In the first example, we saw Magisk do the Molotov for short while instantly peeking through the tunnel to get information. This was combined with the backup from the nade of Glaive and his presence in short to watch connector. On top of that, Sipix was responsible for blowing up the connector door and defending monster afterwards. This resulted in them getting quickly control of short, connector and even monster, giving them the opportunity to rotate Xyp9x back to A. In the second example, we saw once again the same use of utility for the short tunnel. However, this time they mixed up their game plan by leaving open monster to get Sipix into connector. This set him up for a perfectly timed flank that caught most parts by surprise and resulted in an easy 4v2 for Astralis. The third example that we saw used a smoke at the entrance of monster to discourage any rushes from the attackers. And this time, instead of using two players directly in short, they slightly changed it up once again, with Glaive being inside the water, while Magisk was supporting him by giving information about any approaching enemies in connector. Once the map control in short was taken, it allowed them to rotate Magisk to help out Device and Dupree with their defense at A. It's not only in gun rounds that Astralis like to have control of the water in B short. Also in his pistol rounds against Team Liquid, they invest a lot of forces to get control of this area of the map. Dupree, as the A player, goes for the information towards middle and sees that there isn't any fast A rush coming in. The other 4 players are making their way down to B, where Glaive, as the only player without Kevlar, boosts up Magisk and uses his flashbang to delay any potential monster pushes. Magisk, from this boosted position, manages to get the entry onto Stewie before dropping down to safety. At the same time, both Xyp9x and Device are inside short to deal with the other players coming from the tunnel. Once the information about the short push comes in, Dupree quickly makes his way into connector to help out eliminating the last attacker. All of this resulting in a very short pistol round, giving Astralis their first CT round win with a team ace. Let's stick to that same match against Team Liquid and have a look at how the first gun round was played. This time, instead of using a Molotov and a nade towards the short tunnel, Astralis opts to go for a different play. While both Sipix and Glaive are running to short, Magisk uses this combination of a smoke and a flashbang to get a separation between the alley and the tracks area. After throwing these 2 nades, Magisk holds for any monster push from this off angle before going back to the boost to jump spot if there are any enemies inside the connector. Let's have a look at Xyp9x's point of view. Arriving in short, Xyp9x instantly smokes off the Molotov and gets inside the water. Together with Glaive, they peek through the tunnel to tracks and don't see any enemies. With this information, he instantly goes back and takes over the duty of defending monster from Magisk, so that he can go and do the jump spotting towards connector. Glaive facilitated this information play by blowing up the connector door before falling back and giving up control of the water. With all this information gathered, that there is nobody visible in connector, nobody is close to short, and also the A defenders haven't seen anything towards middle or long, it is very likely that Team Liquid were setting up for a B execute towards monster. From Team Liquid's point of view, the smoke that was thrown by Magisk delayed their tactic, and it also denied them some information about where the B defenders had taken control of. After the smoke has disappeared, Team Liquid decides to group up and go for a play towards B. However, they instantly run into the resistance from Astralis that uses Molotov and a smoke inside the monster tunnel once Liquid's push comes in. And that brings us back to that element that we discussed before about Astralis. More specifically, their strength that lies in the subtle changes that they make from round to round to make sure that they are never fully predictable. This is something that is showcased here once again. As you have probably noticed by now, Astralis very regularly uses its Molotov plus nade combination in short to take control of that part of the map. But every strength also comes with a weakness. In this case, using these nades early on could be countered by a passive play from the attackers, baiting out the utility in the beginning of the round, to then overrun the defense later on in the round once the CTs have nothing left to defend with. This tendency is something that Team Liquid might have been aware of, since they didn't seem very keen on contesting anything towards the B side early on. However, because Astralis switched up their tactic and did not use any nades to get short control, except for that one smoke, they still have plenty of utility to later on use against that monster push. We've now seen Astralis play 5 different rounds in which they always have a different approach to take control of short. At the same time, we've also seen that it's not always a huge adjustment that they make from round to round. However, due to their smaller changes in their sequence, they always seem to mix it up a little bit and keep their opponents guessing about their next move. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a thumbs up if you did, a thumbs down if you didn't, and let me know in the comments what you think about Astralis' tactics to take control of this crucial area on Overpass. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.